The Intergalactic Academy was the pinnacle of higher education across the stars, a place where students from countless worlds came to study, exchange knowledge, and understand each other's cultures. Aliens of all shapes and sizes attended the academy, each species bringing its own unique traditions and practices. For the most part, everyone adapted well to the differences in customs until the day the humans arrived. Humans were a relatively new addition to the galactic community. Their homeworld, Earth, had earned them the nickname Deathworlders because it was one of the most dangerous planets known to the galaxy. Earth was teeming with predators, natural disasters, and diseases that had forced humans to evolve into resilient, resourceful survivors, while other species had worlds with relatively stable environments. Humans lived in a place that tried to kill them every day. This had shaped them in ways most aliens couldn't even imagine. But none of the other species had expected how much this resilience would influence something as mundane as a human self-care routine. Talia, a human student, had just begun her studies at the Intergalactic Academy. She was excited, curious, and eager to make friends with students from across the galaxy. Her first class was Galactic Medicine and Anatomy, and her classmates included beings from more than a dozen different planets. Some had sleek, smooth skin, others were covered in fur, scales, or exoskeletons. Each species had its own quirks, but everyone was there to learn. The class began normally enough, with students introducing themselves and their respective homeworlds. When it was Talia's turn, she smiled brightly and said, "Hi, I'm Talia, and I'm from Earth." Her alien classmates exchanged nervous glances. Earth Deathworld. They had heard stories about it, the towering volcanoes, the ravenous beasts, the deadly diseases that could wipe out entire populations. They looked at Talia, wondering how anyone could have survived such a place. But Talia seemed normal enough, friendly, even. Surely the stories were exaggerated. As the class progressed, the instructor gave a lecture on basic anatomy and the different methods of self-care practiced by various species across the galaxy. For most, self-care involved things like bathing in nutrient-rich fluids, resting in temperature-controlled chambers, or absorbing energy from light sources, all quite soothing and peaceful. At the end of the lecture, the instructor asked each student to share something about their personal self-care routine. It was a harmless exercise, meant to foster cultural understanding. Talia's alien classmates were eager to hear about a routine, but they were completely unprepared for what she would say. When it was her turn to speak, Talia stood up confidently. "Well, I've got a pretty simple self-care routine," she began. "First, I usually start the day with a run. Nothing too intense, just about 5 miles, usually in the morning, around 6 a.m. Her classmates stared at her in confusion. 5 miles, one of the alien students, a slim creature with translucent skin named Xavier, raised a hand. "Excuse me, human," Xavier asked, his voice shaking slightly. "What do you mean by run? Do you mean you flee from danger for 5 miles every day?" Talia laughed. Mo, it's not fleeing, it's exercise. I run because it keeps me fit and energized. It's fun." Her classmates were stunned. For most of the species in the room, running meant only one thing: escape from a predator. The very idea that a human would do this voluntarily, for fun, was baffling, but that was just the beginning. "After my run, I usually take a cold shower," Talia continued. "Helps with muscle recovery." There was a collective gasp from the room. A cold shower. Most alien species couldn't tolerate extreme temperatures. Too many. Cold water would be a punishment, not a method of relaxation. "You deliberately subject yourself to freezing temperatures?" asked Krex, a reptilian student from the desert planet Dracara. "Are you not afraid of hypothermia?" "Not really," Talia shrugged. "It's refreshing, and it's great for your circulation." Her classmates were beginning to look at her like she was some kind of unstoppable force, but Talia wasn't done yet. "Then, after breakfast, I like to lift weights for about an hour," she added. "I've got a pretty standard routine: squats, deadlifts, bench press, you know, the usual." One of her classmates, a small, jelly-like creature named Kin, jiggled nervously. "You lift heavy objects on purpose?" Kin asked, struggling to understand. "But why? Wouldn't that cause injury?" "Not if you do it right," Talia explained. Strength training helps build muscle and improves overall health. Plus, it's a great way to relieve stress. The alien students were utterly horrified. For them, self-care was about relaxation, rejuvenation, and preserving their delicate bodies. But Talia's routine sounded more like a series of death-defying trials. What kind of species subjected themselves to such extreme conditions voluntarily? Over the next few weeks, Talia's self-care routine became the talk of the academy. Her classmates were equal parts fascinated and terrified. They couldn't believe that a creature could willingly endure such intense physical exertion and discomfort as part of a daily routine. One day, Xavier approached Talia cautiously after class. "Talia," he said, his voice shaky, "I've been thinking about your self-care routine, and I don't understand. On my homeworld, self-care involves floating in nutrient-rich waters, meditating, and avoiding any unnecessary physical strain. Why do humans push themselves so hard?" Talia smiled, understanding the confusion. "It's just how we've adapted. I guess Earth is a tough place, and over the centuries, we've learned that pushing our bodies helps us survive. Our environment is unpredictable. One day it's scorching hot, the next it's freezing cold. We have to be strong to handle it. But it's not just about survival anymore. For us, it's about feeling good, challenging ourselves, and staying healthy." Xavier nodded slowly, though he still couldn't quite grasp the concept. "But isn't it painful?" "Sometimes," Talia admitted, "but that's part of the process. We've learned that pushing past discomfort makes us stronger, mentally and physically." In time, a strange thing happened. Some of the alien students began incorporating small parts of Talia's routine into their own lives. Xavier, curious about the human practice of exercise, tried a light jog on the academy's artificial track. Ken, despite his jelly-like body, attempted to lift small objects, intrigued by the concept of strength training. Of course, none of them could fully replicate Talia's routine. Most of the aliens still found it far too intensive, but they appreciated the philosophy behind it. Talia had shown them that self-care didn't always mean comfort. Sometimes, it meant pushing yourself to be better. By the end of the semester, Talia had not only made friends from across the galaxy, but she had also influenced the way many of her classmates approached their own routines. The academy had never seen anything like Deathworlder's intense approach to self-care, turning into an intergalactic curiosity. And while her classmates would never fully understand why anyone would willingly run 5 miles at the crack of dawn or lift heavy weights for fun, they came to respect the tenacity and strength that made humans so uniquely fascinating. Word of Talia's Deathworlder self-care routine had spread so far that it caught the attention of the Academy's medical department. Dr. Velrock, a professor of interspecies health, decided to launch an experiment. Volunteers from different species would try small elements of Talia's routine under supervision to see how they adapted. The idea was controversial. Many of the other professors thought it was far too dangerous. After all, humans were the only species in the academy who had evolved to endure such extremes. But Dr. Velrock was intrigued by how humans had developed resilience, and he believed that other species might benefit, too, even in small doses. A group of curious students signed up for the experiment. Among them was Xavier, the cautious but determined insectoid, Ken, the jelly-like alien who had already tried light weightlifting, and Krex, the reptilian warrior who was skeptical of Talia's methods but couldn't resist the challenge. The experiment was simple. Each student would adopt a small part of Talia's routine for 1 week, with adjustments for their species. For Xavier, it was a 1-mile walk instead of a 5-mile run. Ken would attempt light resistance training, with elastic bands instead of lifting weights. Krex, proud of his warrior heritage, opted to try the cold showers, claiming his skills could handle it. Talia, who had become something of an ambassador for human culture, agreed to help oversee the experiment. As the week progressed, the participants faced unique challenges that pushed their limits in ways they had never imagined. Xavier, who came from a low-gravity planet where physical exertion was minimal, found even the 1-mile walk to be incredibly taxing. His legs, unused to sustained effort, wobbled as he completed his laps around the academy's track. At first, He was embarrassed humans could run for miles without breaking a sweat, and here he was, struggling with a simple walk. But Talia was there to encourage him. "You're doing great, Xaver," she said as he shuffled forward, antennae drooping from exhaustion. "The important thing isn't how far you go, but that you keep pushing yourself. Little by little, you'll get stronger." Xaver, panting heavily, managed a small smile. "Humans are stronger than we give them credit for," he said between breaths. Kin, on the other hand, had his own challenges. His species, being more fluid in form, had never dealt with the concept of strength in the traditional sense. The idea of lifting objects to improve muscle mass was foreign to him. At first, the elastic bands were confusing, but as the week went on, Kim began to enjoy the strange sensation of his body, resisting the pull of the bands. "I never knew this could be so invigorating," Kim said, his gelatinous form stretching and contracting as he worked with the resistance bands. Meanwhile, Crux, the warrior reptilian, confidently took on the cold shower challenge. He boasted to the other students about how his scales could endure extreme temperatures, but when he stepped into the freezing water for the first time, his bravado quickly evaporated. "This is madness," Crix roared as the icy water hit his scales, his body shivering uncontrollably. "How do humans survive this?" Talia, who had grown used to such reactions, simply smiled and said, "It takes time, but eventually, your body adapts. You'll feel great afterward, trust me." By the end of the week, something remarkable had happened. The participants, though still struggling with certain aspects of Talia's routine, had gained a new respect for human resilience. They hadn't fully embraced the Deathworlder lifestyle, but they had all experienced personal growth in unexpected ways. Xaver, who could barely walk a mile at the start of the week, managed to finish his final lap with a sense of accomplishment. He wasn't fast, but he didn't give up. For the first time in his life, he understood the human drive to push past discomfort. "I never thought I would enjoy something like this," Xaver admitted to Talia after his walk, "but now I see why humans do it. It makes you feel alive." Kin, the jelly-like alien, found that his body had become more flexible and responsive after using the resistance bands. It was a strange sensation, but he liked the idea that he was improving himself in ways he never thought possible. "I may not have muscles like you, Talia," Kin said with a bubbly laugh, "but I think I understand the joy of challenge now." Even Crix, despite his rocky start with the cold showers, came to appreciate the mental toughness required to endure the experience. While he still found it uncomfortable, he respected how humans could use discomfort to build strength, not just physically but mentally as well. "I may not like it," Crix grumbled, "but I see now why humans are considered so strong. It's not just your bodies, it's your mind. You enjoy because you choose to." As the experiment came to a close, the results were shared with the entire academy. Dr. Velrock presented the findings, emphasizing how the participants had gained not only physical benefits, but also a new appreciation for human determination and resilience. The experiment had sparked an unexpected wave of curiosity about human practices across the academy. More students began experimenting with small elements of Talia's routine. Some tried light exercise, while others, inspired by Crix's experience, attempted short bursts of cold exposure. Though most aliens couldn't fully replicate the Deathworlder lifestyle, they admired the philosophy behind it, the idea that pushing oneself, even in small ways, could lead to growth. Talia, who had never imagined a routine would make such an impact, was humbled by the experience. She had always taken her self-care habits for granted, but seeing how her classmates responded made her realize how unique and powerful human resilience really was. "I never thought I'd end up teaching aliens about self-care," Talia joked to Dr. Reyes, one of the Academy's professors, "but I guess humans have a thing or two to share after all." As time passed, Talia's influence continued to spread. The Academy became a place where species from across the galaxy not only studied together but also learned from each other's cultures in unexpected ways. While the aliens still found many aspects of human life intense and strange, they also came to admire the strength it took to thrive on a Deathworld-like Earth. And the humans, in turn, began to adopt some of the more peaceful practices from their alien classmates. Meditation, nutrient baths, and energy-absorbing rituals became parts of the human students' own routines, creating a unique blend of practices that reflected the diversity of the academy. Talia's once shocking self-care routine had become a symbol of how even the most different species could find common ground. What had started as a horror story for her alien classmates had turned into an opportunity for growth, understanding, and mutual respect. In the end, the Intergalactic Academy thrived, not because of its advanced technology or grand lectures, but because of the students who embraced each other's differences and learned that strength could be found in diversity, whether it came from a death world or a peaceful planet of floating cities. As part of the Academy's tradition, each semester ended with a grand event known as the Galactic Trials, a series of challenges designed to test the strength, intelligence, and adaptability of students from different species. The trials were highly competitive and fiercely watched, with teams of mixed species students working together to complete difficult tasks. These trials were a way for the Academy to celebrate diversity and cooperation among the galaxy's brightest minds. Talia and her classmates had been hearing about the Galactic Trials since they arrived, but no one had ever expected a human to take part. Traditionally, the trials were meant for species with extraordinary abilities, those with telepathy, shape-shifting, or high-speed flight. Humans, while strong and adaptable, weren't typically known for their extraordinary abilities. That all changed when Talia's name was added to the list of participants. "I can't believe they're letting a human join the trials," Crix muttered when he saw the announcement. "No offense, Talia, but you're not exactly equipped for these kinds of challenges." Talia just smiled. "You'd be surprised what humans can handle. We've got a few tricks up our sleeves." The day of the Galactic Trials arrived, and the entire Academy gathered to watch. The students participating in the trials were divided into teams, each made up of different species. Talia's team included Xaver, Kin, and Crix, an unusual mix of species that reflected the diversity of the Academy. The trials were broken into 3 stages: physical endurance, mental puzzles, and adaptability to extreme conditions. Each stage tested the teams in different ways, and every species had its strengths and weaknesses. The first challenge, the Gauntlet, was a grueling obstacle course that tested physical endurance. As the teams lined up, the alien spectators whispered among themselves, how would the human perform in such a challenge? Would she collapse under the pressure? But when the starting signal blared, Talia sprinted forward with a determination that surprised even her teammates, while Xaver struggled with the heavy gravity, and Kin sloshed awkwardly through the uneven terrain. Talia moved with the precision and strength of someone who had been training for this her entire life. Her time spent running and lifting weights back on Earth had prepared her well for the physical demands of the Gauntlet. Halfway through the course, Crix, the reptilian warrior, glanced at Talia as she scaled a wall with ease. "You're not bad for a soft skin," he grunted, begrudgingly impressed. "Thanks," Talia replied, grinning. "Just wait until you see the rest." The second stage of the trials focused on mental acuity. Teams were placed in a massive maze filled with puzzles that required problem-solving and communication to escape. Each species brought their own way of thinking to the table, but the pressure of the trials often led to confusion and chaos. Talia's team, however, had an unexpected advantage. While Xaver used his species' quick calculations to solve numerical puzzles, and Kin used his unique ability to squeeze through tight spaces, Talia showed her knack for thinking outside the box. She approached puzzles with creativity, often finding solutions that other species hadn't considered. At one point, the team encountered a puzzle involving a series of glowing panels that had to be activated in a specific sequence. The aliens scratched their heads, unsure of how to proceed. Talia stepped forward. "This reminds me of a game we used to play back on Earth," she said. "It's all about recognizing patterns." With a few quick observations, she figured out the sequence and activated the panels, allowing the team to move forward. "You humans are full of surprises," Xaver said, amazed at her problem-solving skills. The third and final stage of the Galactic Trials was the most difficult: adaptability to extreme conditions. The teams were dropped into an environment designed to simulate the harshest climates in the galaxy: intense heat, freezing cold, violent storms, and unpredictable terrain. Each species had to rely on their natural strengths to survive. For Talia, this was the ultimate test. Earth was classified as a death world because of its volatile environment, and she had grown up facing similar challenges, but the extreme conditions of the trials were even more severe than anything she had experienced before. As the temperature dropped and fierce winds howled, the team huddled together for warmth. Kin, whose jelly-like form was particularly vulnerable to the cold, began to shiver uncontrollably. "I can't hold together much longer," Kin whimpered, his body quivering in the freezing air. Without hesitation, Talia removed her jacket and wrapped it around Kin's shivering form. "Stay close to me," she said. "We'll get through this together." Sever, struggling with the wind, looked at Talia. "Eno, how are you not freezing? This temperature would kill most species." Talia grinned through chattering teeth. "Humans have this thing called stubbornness. We don't go down that easily." Together, the team pushed forward, with Talia's sheer determination keeping them moving. Crix, the warrior who had once doubted Talia's abilities, now followed her lead, impressed by her endurance and leadership. Together, they braved the harsh conditions, crossing the finish line as one of the few teams to complete the challenge. When the galactic trials came to an end, the results were announced. Talia's team didn't win first place, but they finished in the top 3, a remarkable achievement for a human and a group of unlikely allies. As the crowd cheered, Talia stood with her teammates, exhausted but proud. She had proven that humans, with their unique mix of physical resilience and mental creativity, could not only survive but thrive in the galaxy's most difficult challenges. After the trials, the Academy was buzzing with excitement. Talia had become something of a legend among the students. Her intense self-care routine, once a source of horror and confusion for her alien classmates, was now seen as a testament to the strength and adaptability of humans. What had begun as a simple curiosity had evolved into a deep respect for Earth's Deathworlders. Sever, Kin, and Crix, who had once been skeptical of Talia's methods, now considered her a close friend and respected teammate. "I guess humans aren't as fragile as I thought," Crix admitted, shaking Talia's hand. "You've earned my respect, Deathworlder." Talia smiled. "Thanks, Crix, but we couldn't have done it without working together." Epilogue, a new legacy. In the weeks following the galactic trials, Talia's influence continued to spread throughout the Academy. Other students began incorporating elements of her routine into their own self-care practices, and her team's success in the trials inspired even more collaboration between species. Humans, once seen as outliers in the galactic community, had now earned a place of respect and admiration. Talia's story became a symbol of how even the most different species could learn from one another and grow stronger together. As Talia prepared for her next semester, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. The girl from Earth, who had shocked her alien classmates with her intense self-care routine, was now a part of something much bigger, a community of beings from across the galaxy, all working together to build a future of understanding and cooperation. And through it all, Talia knew one thing for sure: humans were here to stay.